Welcome to the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, a fabulous, non-binary, neurospicy, ordained queerdo with a fascination for all things cycles, symbolism, and patterns.
And I am Moonkittee, your queer, femme, poly, kitchen witch, and proud geek. Today's topic is a little different. Today's
Mm.
topic is the Queer Witch Project.
Yay!
Yeah, so with this will be our final Queer Witch Project episode. And it's bittersweet in some ways, in a lot of
Well,
ways. But
nothing is built to last forever.
absolutely, yeah. Let me just dive in. Let's do it. The stats are for this thing. We started this idea of a podcast 3 years ago, and then we spent like 3 months planning
I was like,
before.
yeah, I like to talk. I want to do a podcast, but I don't want to do, I don't know any of that technical background piece.
And I had a little bit of the technical background behind it, and we spent a good 3 months planning, decide what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go with it, and all of that before we even started recording our first episode. And then here we are, 2.5 years, 65 episodes, and 4 bonus episodes. 69, dude! Plus countless brainstorming sessions and emailing and so many lessons we've learned along the way. It's been
Yeah,
wild and
it's
so
been
much
fun.
fun.
I'm glad we did it.
Me too. I've had
Because I'm like,
so much
it
fun.
lives on, it's out there, it's in the world.
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody cares to hear us rambling on some topics.
But
One
yeah.
day I may not, but maybe my video will. Who knows?
Hmm. So the question becomes, why are we ending? Why are we choosing now to end? And it's a lot of different reasons.
I was like, well, why did we even get started in the first place? Because we
Exactly.
wanted to.
Well, there's that too, but a lot of things that if we think about it, we started in a 7 year,
Yeah.
which you'll hear about in
Because
our.
we talk about the personal year cycle a lot in
Mhm.
numerology, and Shay and I just kind of happened to be on the same personal year cycle, and
Yes.
so it was a global 7 year
Hmm.
and a personal 7 year for both of us, and that seven is a lot about analysis and spirituality and spirit work and kind of diving into the mystical,
Hmm.
the magical.
And at that point, we had lost our mystical, magical connection in convention that we used to go to.
It's true.
And we were both really feeling that need to talk and have these wonderful, amazing conversations that we would have while we were there and be able to share them with others. And that was one of
Yeah.
the key things I think that drove at least me to want to do the podcast.
Yeah, and letting magic be a regularly scheduled part of your life. And
Hmm.
for us, I feel like the Queer Witch Project was for this period of 2.5 years that we've worked on it, my little regularly scheduled magic.
Hmm.
And there'll be other things, who
Hmm.
knows? But I'm really glad that we dedicated time to this. I didn't ever believe that we would be doing it indefinitely. In fact,
Hmm.
I'm actually kind of surprised that I stuck with it for 2.5 years. Which I wouldn't have done if it weren't for you.
Hmm.
For real. Like Shay.
I think what made this work so well is we each had a different set of skills that really
And
complemented each
strengths.
other and strengths that really helped us work together. And we both had the desire. Again, I didn't think it was going to last 2.5 years either, but it just kept becoming this thing that this became a really important bit of my life. And it's been wonderful. And now that we're in this 9 year, this year of endings and transitions and
Yeah.
going into something else, it feels right.
Right.
It's it,
Exactly.
exactly. It's that bittersweet sad, but you know that there's something else coming. And
Always.
I'm really excited to embrace what the next possible thing could be.
Yeah, me too. But and I think it's a beautiful way to let that transition happen where it's just
Hmm.
like, I recognize that it's not infinitely sustainable and it is a great run and we created something that still gets, this is an art. We created something,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Absolutely.
still gets to exist and people still get to partake in, and who knows who will find this,
Mm-hmm.
down the road.
I know.
And hey, our emails will still be open. So like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, hit us up. Let us know you're still listening. That'd be rad. I'm glad we did it. I think 69 episodes altogether is a pretty cool number to stop it. Like
Yeah.
it does feel right to wrap it up. It just felt right that, we probably could have kept coming up with new ideas, or I could have worked harder to get and make it more like a scheduling guest slots. But we have very busy lives, and getting guest slots scheduled, and even just still maintaining the schedule of the time that we took to create, to plan. It was 2 days a month, every month at the very minimum,
Mm-hmm.
that we dedicated to, because even though it wasn't like the whole day for those two
There's
days, like
several hours in each of those days.
personal prep work, or our own individual, like,
Mm-hmm.
I will do the rabbit hole on this one, or I will, I can bring this to the table because it's all wrapped up in my brain, or I have notes for this topic. Yeah, so like, and
Editing, all the video editing
oh,
and
our
everything behind
sweet
that.
editing.
Yes, I
Yeah.
the last few episodes, I finally, bless her heart, got an editor who's been amazing for the last episodes. But in the beginning, I was doing it all myself, trying to juggle a full-time job and the podcast and doing the editing for it, and it was challenging. There's
Yeah.
so many hours and hours and hours put in of editing to get it to sound right, to look right, to cut out all of our dead spaces and some of our really long tangents. So it was
Yeah.
comprehensive.
Not to mention, like, all of the things where we've tripped over our words,
Hmm.
or lost our train of thought, or had a tickle in the throat and had to get some water. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, and again, we started this not knowing what we were doing, and we're
Right.
like, well, we'll never figure it out unless we do it, unless we
Absolutely.
try. And, let it look, if let me be the inspiration. If I can do something like that, you can do something like this. And again, make it a team effort, find a collaboration. That was, I think, honestly, one of my favorite parts. It wasn't when I would tell people about the Queer Witch Project, it wasn't like, I have a podcast,
Hmm.
I am so great, just look at what I did. It was like, yeah, no, I have a, me and a friend, we've co-created this cool little thing where we talk about the intersection between spirituality and queerness, really,
Hmm.
based out of our more pagan leaning spiritual beliefs
Right.
and our witchiness, our
Hmm.
personal magic and power. But yeah, just like exploring that crossroads, but like being able to do it with someone was
Hmm.
very meaningful. And drawing in guests was really fun. And
Yes.
also incredibly challenging for the
Oh,
neurospicy people and schedules and
and that's some of the
communication.
the realistic feedback and the realistic aspects that I don't want to do the Debbie Downer when it comes to this kind of stuff, but it's real. And it was far more difficult than we thought to get guests to come
And
in.
maybe
And
I'm just not like the salesman pushy enough like personality of like, no, I'm getting you on my schedule now and let's put a date in, and like, but like I would get a lot of, yeah, like, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast, but like never any like, yes, I will do it on this day at this time, like commitments. Like, there were people that were interested, and but follow-ups weren't really happening, and
mhm.
I tried, but I don't think I'm as persistent as I think maybe a more persistent person could have made it. And I'm scatterbrained. I'm neurospicy. Communication can be, I like to talk, but like I don't love typing,
Mhm.
and figuring out how to talk to people that I don't know versus people that I do know is just two different areas of my brain, and one is more challenging than the other.
And the guests we did have were amazing.
Yes,
We'll talk.
very much
You'll
so.
see a little bit of it later, but I am really grateful for the guests, for all the guests who did come on, all of our witchy friends that we dragged into this, and also a few people that we actually got from the community to come in and be a part of this. So for those of you that were our guests who we hadn't met before, that was an amazing experience to be able to do that, and it was wonderful. But the other aspect of this too is we've been doing this for 2.5 years, and our audience is small and mighty, and they are fantastic, but we haven't really seen any impactful growth for the podcast in the last year or so. And we were really hoping
Which
that getting guests and getting people in would help us expand, and we haven't been able to.
I will take ownership of some of that too, because, you are a lot like me. I have a love-hate relationship with technology and like a one foot in and one foot out. I think it's important. I know it's a magic. I know it makes our world smaller and helps us communicate. And here I am using it to talk to y'all,
Hmm.
whoever is listening right now. But also it's the real life stuff that really takes my energy and gets my focus more often than not. And so like we talk better than, going on social media and making posts and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So like
both of
I
us.
love the sitting here in front of this camera and microphone and having this conversation with you and finding some nuggets of wisdom to share with the internet in and amongst our conversations. That I find easy, but then self-promoting or, promoting ourselves and like keeping up on social media has never really been my strong suit. I'm
Mine
very
either.
much one foot in the door, one foot out of the door, and it's something that's a little bit of my energy gets to attend to some downtime that I have, but I do a lot of other things with the time and energy I have in my day, and social media isn't prioritized. And I
Hmm.
think, I'm not a social media person. So I think that if we had done more social media, maybe we would have built a more of a following.
Hmm.
And again, who knows? We'll find this. I kind of just believe that it is what it is.
Hmm.
It became what it needed to be, and it will find whoever needs to find it.
That's my hope, and that's my belief in the trust that I have in the universe, that the right people will find it when they need to find it, because that's the way life works in my world and all of it. And the other thing too is when we're talking about our friends and our guests who we've had and everything else, it was wonderful talking about different topics, but we're also, as we tried to mention throughout the things, we are very, very conscious that we are two white AFAB women
In
and in
California, so
California, and
that's a
there
one perspective.
it's absolutely one perspective, and trying to get people who had different perspectives is hard. It's really, really hard, and we can only speak from the perspective we have and give out information that we know in a general way that talks about the different cultures and different practices, but knowing that we're not in that practice, we can't speak to them. So we had these great ideas of getting a lot of guests to speak to them, and then it couldn't and never quite manifested out the way we
Yeah, we
hoped.
thought it would be cool to build the space and then invite people to come in
Hmm.
and take it, But yeah, I think it more kind of morphed into more of us talking about topics that we were passionate enough
Hmm.
about to invite people down the rabbit hole, and inviting some of our friends and friends of friends and really cool people in the
Hmm.
community doing cool things, and inviting them in and letting them tell us about what they're doing or what they're passionate about. But yeah, I think we ended up a little bit less heavy on the focusing on guests and a little bit
Hmm.
more into what we have to offer, you and I.
Hmm.
And just because we have such a good rapport. And
Hmm.
the other thing is, you do run into technical issues that we were like, again,
Oh
so many
God,
lessons were
yes.
learned, right? Because
Whew.
we have one friend that recorded with us twice, and bless her heart, we never once got to share because we just haven't had the right setup on
Hmm.
her end for the audio quality to work out for us. And we tried it twice, and it was like,
Hmm.
the universe says not right now. Okay, but
Right.
I mean, she's the most fabulous human, and it wasn't the topic that was the problem. It was just the technology.
Hmm. And even looking back and thinking about those first few episodes, the
Oh,
audio
our
chain challenges,
technology.
our technology, in those first episodes, and trying to play with getting levels, and because we're doing all of this through Zoom, you're stuck with you don't realize it makes a huge difference if you are taking the Zoom call on your phone versus taking it on a personal computer. The audio quality, what it picks up in the background, all of that stuff is so dramatically different, and that it becomes a huge challenge, and trying to edit around that and compensate
Mm-hmm.
for it to get some of those first edits and videos. I think our first one, we apologized like the first two videos, saying this will get
Yeah.
better, I promise.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a perfect moment for me to to shout out to my two friends, Gigi and Sarah, who
Hmm.
have offered me their office spaces and their office setups, because I don't have the technology nor the space at home. And
Hmm.
these two friends of mine have offered me their office spaces and it has worked out very lovely. And that's again, when we started this, we didn't know what we were doing, so we're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
let's try it through Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are somebody who's listening to podcasts because you've thought about starting a podcast, and let us pass the torch and just say,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you figure it out as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
Lessons are learned along the way. Try something out and see if it
Mm-hmm.
works. If it doesn't, find the next best thing.
Yeah. And it's okay if it's a work in progress.
Yep, exactly. Yes. Some other things, like what else did you learn or that was special to you about doing this?
To me, the most special thing is getting the time with you because
Mm,
we've been friends for over a decade. We've been in and out of each other's lives in so many different ways. Your children are amazing and I love them with all of my heart. And it's rough because the pandemic hit in so many ways and turned all of our lives upside down. I mean, and the irony again is this magical convention that we went to. The last convention was in 2020, and it was
mm-hmm.
about 3 weeks before the pandemic shut everything down. And then seeing our lives change to isolation and seeing my own path and how I deal with people and isolated in pods and things and not getting to see each other and talk to each other and all
Yeah.
of these things that we
All
used to
our
be able to do,
parties,
all the parties
the convention,
and just being together and just hanging
rituals.
out, going up and taking long weekends in the mountains and just all these little retreats and things that we used to be able to do, we stopped. We had to stop because of what was happening. And so getting this opportunity that there is some dedicated time in my
Yeah.
month where I know, regardless of anything else, I am scheduling this time to have conversations with you, to do this with you, and everything else. It's been the most amazing thing. 'Cause again, I've loved our conversations. Every conversation we've ever had about spirituality and witchiness, I've always wanted to say, I think people should listen to this because it's really cool and it's got a lot of different people. So this was the chance to do that.
Not to mention that we always had our own personal catch-up time
Yes.
before we would get into, all right,
Hmm.
now let's work on the
Right.
podcast. We'd be like, what's going on with you? Like, we're gonna have to figure out a way to keep scheduling those
Hmm.
check-ins because we don't live in the same town anymore.
Mm-mm.
That's one of the many things that changed
Right.
during all of that span of time. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you. I will miss, our regular conversations. And I think that there are ways that we can
Hmm.
make sure that doesn't go completely away.
Right.
The other thing is that I'm taking away from this is that there are people now in my life who kind of like check up on me or send me updates on what's going on with them and like how uh, a lot of people, a few people, not a lot, but like a few people who are like just discovered the podcast because they're kind of fresh on their,
Hmm.
I've always felt witchy, but now I'm kind of finding my way
Hmm.
journey. And they talk to me. It's not an everyday thing. It's not even
Hmm.
an every month thing, but every few months I get a message from someone that's like, oh, I found you because the podcast, and we chatted here or we chat there, or they send me an email. So like it's been cool to just hear from some people
Hmm.
out there. And like, remember that one time when somebody interviewed us
Yeah.
because they were doing a research paper on kind of mostly like TikTok or how people use TikTok like platforms to
Social media platforms for connection
with
and witchy
uh,
connection
yeah,
specifically.
witchy. Yeah, specifically like a, witchy kind of. It's almost like we've moved our oral traditions as a human species. Like
Hmm.
we've kind of moved to using TikTok or platforms like that
Hmm.
as our spreading of the oral traditions, or
Hmm.
this is sharing of what I do, kind of like passing down the magic a little bit. And like, what a cool topic to do a research paper on, and we got to be just a little bit of part of that and
Right.
see. And they ended up sharing part of their research with us. I got messages from people who wanted to be guests on the podcast. And
Hmm.
then I was like, I know, I want to put you on this episode, this topic. Like, I know the perfect topic for you. And then I never got it scheduled and I never did it. I dropped the ball on it. So, like, there are things left undone. And honestly, that also feels right. I love
Hmm.
that it's not perfectly, maybe years from now, we'll be like, hey, ever since we did the Queer Witch Project, I've always wanted to go back and do like a season two, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll pick it up again in 5 years.
Or a season 6 in that case. But we could there's nothing
Yeah, or
stopping us from
whatever.
doing
Yeah,
bonus episodes
exactly. We
or
might.
things in between and
Yeah.
all of that. No. And I think that was the next question was I have is what have you learned that wasn't the exciting things, the good things. But what are the bad things that you learned? And I think, like you said, the time challenge for you.
Right. Yeah. Well, getting, it's one thing because, for example, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of how we do this.
Hmm.
For anybody, again, because I definitely am all about this. One of the last wisdoms to leave people
Hmm.
with is that you can do it too, and we can pass, let us pass the torch to you. We love to hear other people's voices, but we chose a schedule of time of two very specific days each month that we would plan and then execute
Hmm.
the next couple 2 or 3 episodes, and we tried to stay ahead of ourselves so that we didn't
Hmm.
run out of episodes, and it got a little dicey there for a bit. For a while we had a bank of episodes to rely on, and other times it's like we better get this one done so that it gets edited in time so that it can be released in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So yeah, we went back and forth on that cushion a couple of times,
Hmm.
but it fit for us, for you
Hmm.
and I, to work these two specific days every month. And that was not going to necessarily work for every guest you wanted to
Right.
have on. And so it was like we would have had to been a lot more flexible in our schedules
Hmm.
to schedule time with guests who don't have this day available every, in a month, and
Hmm.
who would have to do a different day of the week, which is harder for us because we have our own lives that we
Hmm.
also, this is our side project, right?
Right.
So, yep, that was definitely challenging with scheduling things, and, us not having a lot of flexibility. Because, obviously, if I'm borrowing space from an office
Hmm.
space from someone else, I can't do it while they're working.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we were limited. We had
Hmm.
our limitations, and it made things more challenging. And maybe I, give up a little bit when it gets too challenging and shift gears and, well, what can we do?
Hmm. And for me, I had an experience with one of the guests that kind of shaped me in a way that I didn't realize. And we had a potentially really great guest who was a tarot deck creator. We were very, very excited. She was Indigenous and everything was going great. We had our planning session. She was going to be great. And in my own eagerness, without again, not knowing my words, I was trying to be excited and exclusive and say, hey, do you know of anyone who might also be interested in coming on? And being a part of the thing, talking about different indigenous practices and getting the word out. And what I didn't realize is that very much triggered a red flag for her. And by all means, it was not what I intended by any means, because I was like, hey, yay, here's our chance to let more voices come through. Here's our
Mm-hmm.
chance for us to step back and listen and learn. And she was like, it's not my responsibility to educate you on what it is. And I don't feel comfortable with being in that role. And she was very, very, very polite about it. She was
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. I still bought her deck and I still sponsored her Kickstarter and very excited to get the stuff that's coming in. But it was a huge lesson to me in my own privilege and that
We don't want
sometimes
to
the
tokenize
yeah,
people.
tokenizing was the absolute furthest thing from my mind, but the way I asked, the way it came across, came out to that, came out and caused that kind of reaction. And I'm grateful for that lesson to myself. It hurts, and it still hurts a little bit to this day because I think it would
Yeah.
have been an amazing episode. She was an amazing person and all of that, but it's real. And that was a real, gentle, but a real acknowledgement of, hey, what you're doing, the way at least that was phrased, was not taken well. And it was hard because, again, we've always said in every episode we talk about things we're not sure of. So we can't speak to this. We would love somebody to come on and be able to speak to this for it. And I was just so excited to potentially have someone to speak on it that it just got completely misconstrued.
And that brings me back to the what we said about we are two white women
Mm-hmm.
from the liberal state of California who, as much as we've had challenging lives because of our queer experiences, those challenges could pale in comparison to many other people who
Yes.
are living in other extremely challenging situations, not to do comparative suffering or anything. But
Right.
with all that said, there are so many other voices out there that we want deserve to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
that we would love to see have a platform, and that brings me back to like wanting to pass the torch.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you wanted to start a podcast for so long and like you feel inspired and you want to do it and you have questions about what we did, you can email us. Queer Witch Project email will probably still function
Mm-hmm.
for who knows how
Quite a while
long. And
ago.
we're willing, we're going to share our email addresses. So if you feel drawn to asking questions, and because we do want to pass the torch, we do want to hear the voices that need to be heard. If it's not on our platform, if we can't give that to you, we're more than willing to pass it along. Anything that we've learned in the process that you can figure out where your platform is. But and we just want to support other voices. I
Mm-hmm.
want to continue. I learned so much from podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
audiobook and YouTubers and people who make videos, TikTokers, because it's people talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
and that really relates to me. It's real. It's not filtered through some corporate conglomerate of what we can get on our TV channel.
Right.
This is like real life people on the real life internet talking to real life people. And that
Mm-hmm.
just, I love it and I want to see more of it. And I know that I will continue down my path of learning from other voices. And if I can help that happen,
Mm-hmm.
I am
Yes.
gladly.
Please, if you start a podcast, please email us either at the Queer Witch address or at the email addresses below. I will absolutely support you. I will follow you. I will give you likes. I will do everything that I can to boost your energy and your power because, like Damona just said, we want to pass the torch. We want to see other things. I want to learn about all those about all it's not all those, but all of the different types of paths and things that I am not privy to, that I didn't know growing up and I haven't learned through studies in eclectic. And it's just, I want to know and I want to support and I want to hear those voices. More than anything, I want to hear those voices being loud and proud and authentic in who they are. And that's my passion. And that's my dream.
Yeah, and I've actually been invited to be interviewed on a podcast sometime next year.
Oh,
I mean, it's
fantastic.
it's scheduled, but I know. I mean, I get so they do it differently than we've done. So then I get to
Mm-hmm.
learn something different, but they basically just go live and interview
Mm-hmm.
people for an hour or two. No editing. So I'm like, "Okay, good luck. Have fun with that one." But yeah, I'll sit and talk with you for an hour or
Mm-hmm.
two. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe I'll end up turning around and sharing it on our social media that we never use. Hey, look, more from me. Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe instead of doing the podcast interviewing people, somebody will come along and be like, "Can we interview you?" And
Mm-hmm.
maybe we'll get interviewed again, but on somebody's podcast. That'd be cool too. Hey, hit us up.
Absolutely. Like I said,
Yeah.
and it's not because we're trying to self promote. I really
That's
want
it.
that to be come across. We're not trying to self promote anything. We just want to
It's for the
support.
love of the topic. It's for the
Yeah.
love of the community, of the people, of empowering people and, finding your power. And I mean, I can self-promote because, but y'all know what I do. I do numerology, I do tarot, I do weddings. I could self-promote. You can contact me for services too. Sure, fine. But also, like, just because I believe in, sharing knowledge, spreading, building community, propping people up, do your thing, do it better than I did. I'd be excited to see, like, watch the growth. Yeah, so just supporting.
I love seeing people step into their power,
Mm-hmm.
going through
Yeah.
my own experiences and everything else, and just stepping into your authenticity, stepping into your power, stepping into all of that. It's so exciting to me. And I just want to support that whenever I
And I
can.
think that's what keeps me inspired when you see,
Hmm.
especially, the younger generations. I
Hmm.
sound so old when I say that, but you know what I mean.
Right. No, I get it. As much as we don't feel like it, we are becoming the older generation, and it is sometimes very, very
We
hard to
are the old
recognize.
queers your
Yeah,
parents
we're
warned
we're
you about.
becoming the old guard that we never thought we were because we're still in our heads, like in our 20s and kicking butt and taking names and changing the world. But we're doing it now with gray hair and and arthritis. So it's it's its own kind of thing, but it's our generation. We just want change. We want the world to be a better place, and we know it can
Yeah.
be.
And we know that that starts with what you create.
In yourself.
So, and with each other.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So to wrap up our project, our queer
Hmm.
Witch project, I think there was a little treat that we had that we wanted to do. Speaking
Hmm.
of having guests and stuff, One of the things that we would do with every guest that we kind of decided right off the bat initially was that we would ask every guest, what is queer witch? What does the term queer witch mean to you? You know, not necessarily do you identify with as one, because by all means, if you're here, you probably do, you know, on some level. But what does it mean when you hear the term queer witch? But you know what? In all of this 2.5 years, you and I never answered that question.
Mm-mm. And we're
So
going to
we
make you
thought,
wait a little bit longer to get the answer to that question.
because we thought it would be cool if we put together a montage of everybody answering that question for us.
What does the term queer witch mean to you?
I don't tend to identify as a witch per se, like up front. Like most of the time, my go-to is identifying as a druid. And it's like the witchcraft is in there. It's like a smattering. I like to walk in both worlds. Druidry has influenced the witchcraft has influenced the druidry. For me personally, I love it and it works. Sometimes I identify more as a druid, and sometimes I'm like, I'm a druid and a witch. And it just kind of depends on where I am space-wise, energetically, spiritually, which label I'm going to go with.
For me, I think that being queer and being a witch are inherently linked. I think that, you know, if I'm doing something in the world, I'm sure not doing it in a straight way. So that means that for me, being a queer witch means that I'm rejecting a lot of archetypes, you know, that are sort of tied to heterosexuality and heteronormativity and compulsory heteronormativity as well. So for me, it just means that I am questioning everything constantly, you know, and trying to find what is authentic for me as a person, not, you know, just like what we say that it should be done.
Turn on you want to be and being your own person.
So being who you want to be and being your own person. I love that so much.
Because we don't yet gotta do those songs.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot lately about why we call ourselves witches and why witch is the term that is so ubiquitous for a magic worker now, specifically because there are a lot of historic terms for people who do magic and they are not all witches. And so I'm kind of trying to like make witch be a specific term that means a specific thing in my brain rather than just like magic worker is a witch. And for me, the difference really is like, especially coming from a European, you know, historic, like traditional kind of magical perspective, we have the cunning folk and folk magicians who were like town healers, you know, literally town apothecaries, like all of those things who would often actually be, you know, working against witches in a lot of ways. And then you would have these ceremonial magicians who are, you know, kind of like the wealthy white men, let's be real, in their ivory towers doing their ivory tower things. They're very expensive little toys. It's fine, whatever. I just like to tease them. And then I see the witch kind of as like the one on the edge of the forest who's like a little scary, but who's like willing to fuck someone up for you. Like this is the person who like you go to when you know, you need something bad to happen to your enemy's cow, for example, or like something devilish to occur. And so for me, witch itself, like the term, has really sort of coalesced into this idea of rebellion and living on the margins and living kind of like outside of society in a lot of ways. In many ways, that queer people, you know, are either forced to live outside of society or, you know, choose to. Many of us live on the margins. Many of us are, you know, not necessarily like approved of by our greater communities, but we are still useful to our greater communities. And so they keep us around sometimes. When I think of the term queer witch, like it really feels very real to me that those things would intertwine in that specific kind of way.
When I think of the word witch, I think of I just love the way it sounds. And the way that it's the power that it implies, but it's, you know, it's something that'll draw you in. As you explore it, I think you get to know a little more, and it is different for everyone. I do like reading books, but it's when I actually started practicing a tradition, which was the Unnamed Path, which was the first one I formally practiced, as a way of opening up and looking at in an animistic sort of way. Things opened up in a way because I'd always read books on astrology from what the book says and what the aspects mean, but then I started listening. To me, that's a level of witchcraft.
So I think there's like two ways. There's like what comes into your mind right away, and then there's like what it means to you personally.
Yeah.
And I think that like the image of a queer witch is on this really cool path. It used to be female and only female. And queer has always had its own connotations, and it's either, like the lesbian or like the teenage witch, like, and that's where that falls in. And so there's that idea. But now we're getting to this point in society where queer witch is becoming ungendered for me, and more I'm seeing a gender neutrality to it, which I love. I am so excited to see the community opening up that way. What it means to me personally, it has to do with like engaging in the true intimacies that like people shy away from. They don't give it the light. To me, almost like the queer witch community is a lot of shadow work. It's the people willing to engage in the shadow work and then move forward. Queer has always been life-giving to me to pick up as a title, because I am straight presenting, I am cis, but I'm definitely not normal, and I'm definitely not straight, and everybody's always known it. And so queer has always fit a little bit better for me as I've grown in that journey myself. I know you guys have talked about before, like the difference between like bi and pan and how we choose what title that's going to be for us. And I hated that when I was younger. It was not for me. So I love the identity of queer not being pigeonholed to one thing. It's being more than just being gay now, which is great. The witchy term is also growing on me. Is growing on me. It's one that I like stayed away from before, and I just went, oh, I'm eclectic pagan. Oh, I'm Gnostic, or I'm, like through my life, I always had a different title for it. The more you educate yourself, the more you learn, and it turns out everybody's a witch.
Honestly, just someone who is a magical practitioner and who loves outside of their opposite gender that they were assigned or whatever the hell, and or identifies as something beyond their assigned sex at birth. That's literally all it is, at least to me.
I like that everybody rambles in their own way. Yeah, some are more rambly than others, and but there's some similarities between everybody's opinions and a lot of differences. So what does the term queer witch mean to you, Shay?
It was funny because to me, looking at that clip and looking at my own perspective and what I've learned again through the course of the Queer Witch Project is that the phrase queer witch can and does mean something different to everyone, but there's similarities in the idea behind this being embracing what makes you different and harnessing that power inside of you to be something different and be something there. And to me, it goes back to what I was just saying about learning to step into your own authenticity and your own power, and learning that being different, being queer, as the original definition, was outside of the norm as something different. Being queer is not a bad thing. There's a power in that. And same with the idea of the witch. And I grew up loving stories with magic and witchcraft and fantasy elements. So there's something that speaks to my soul with that. And the magic practitioner, the one who could work and manipulate the energies, I've always been drawn to that idea of being able to do that. So identifying as a witch to me is a power. So that outside of the norm, non-conformity, who I am, authentic magic practitioner who works to help others, who works for a greater vision, not necessarily for good or ill, because there's plenty of witches and stereotypes on either side, but works for a greater vision that's outside of their own needs. And to me, I think that's where queer witch and why I identify as a queer witch. What about
That's
you?
very beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
and I just made a lot of that up because it was a hard time thinking about all of this. And yeah, it is hard to define. I apologize to all of our guests that I've asked that question to. But for you, my dear Damona, what is a queer witch?
Well, I don't know.
What's it
I
mean
just
to you?
know that queerness and witchiness are two very beautiful key components to my expressed personality and things that I love about this life and in this world. I know that there's a lot of powerful magical practitioners who live in the intersection and the liminal space of queerness and witchiness. And again, I do feel like witchiness is kind of a interchangeable term for magical practitioner. It's, I think of it as being nature based. Like if we do want to try to define the terms, very, or, pagan in nature, and then like, I know there's magical practitioners who don't identify as witch, but, like some of them mentioned other words like druid, or, there's lots of other terms that you can give, but just the idea of like that intersection. For me, starting the Queer Witch Project is because I identify as a queer witch, and it's because it is that somebody said something about like being a little bit of is what we say, love, be yourself and love rebelliously, kind of sums it up. Queerness is the key to magic, be yourself and love rebelliously. That's what being a queer witch means to me. That's why I identify as a queer witch. It's about knowing who you are, being yourself and your authenticity, despite the messages society in their infinite incorrectness gives us to somehow not be ourselves like that just makes no sense to me. So being yourself, being authentic, and loving rebelliously means like that queerness of I don't let gender or sexuality decide how I can love people. I can love deeply, deeply love, passionately and romantically love somebody that I'll never have sex with. Like, queerness isn't just any one thing, and being a witch or a magical practitioner or a pagan, that's also not any one specific thing. So it is what I think of as an umbrella term, and I think that I have spoken with, we have interviewed, and I have been blessed to know some of the most amazing humans in my life because they exist within the crossroads of queerness and witchiness. But like literally, we talk about people who are your vibe and your kind of people. If I were to go to an event that was queer and had some kind of magical witchy leaning, or was pagan and had some kind of queer leaning, I know I will find people that are on my vibe. That's what being a queer witch means to me, is finding my people.
That's awesome. So beautiful.
And being myself.
I love
And
it.
loving rebelliously.
Absolutely every single time.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. What do
So
you think? That's the
That's a
Queer Witch
wrap.
Project. Yeah. That's what we've learned. That's what we've done in 2.5 years. We've answered your question. What is a queer witch?
And we would love to know what being a queer witch means to anybody who's listening. So
Yes.
you can always leave us a comment or an email and tell us what the term queer witch means to you and how do you identify.
Because again, comments will still be open.
Always. Yeah. We cannot thank you, our listeners, enough for tuning in, especially those who started with us from the beginning and would hit every episode for 2.5 years here. Like, and also thank you to all the ones that found us recently and started just binging it all. Like, that's cool too. And thank you for all the future listeners that are going to catch all of this well after we've wrapped it up. And, maybe there's a little bit of a time capsule to it. Maybe we think different things, as life unfolds. But we do love getting comments and emails, and we love reading everything that you have to share. So every email that was sent, every story that we've read, every person that I've been able to offer my love and encouragement and support to, all your ideas, just the desire for you to share in this journey of life with us, we deeply, deeply thank you. I just want you to know it meant a lot to us. Our gratitude is on offer. This isn't necessarily the end of all things. It is the beginning of a new cycle. So of course, we have one more little mini bonus episode. This is our last episode, but it's also, you'll hear from us at least one more time for sure, because New Year's. We will still keep up the numerology bonus episode tradition. So don't forget to check back in and catch that one. But yeah, maybe you'll hear from us some more you never know what the future will bring. We may have our own separate projects that you could find elsewhere, and maybe we'll come back together. So yeah, just remember to keep a lookout on January 1st for that numerology episode.
And technically, we will still be here. All of our episodes are up on YouTube, and you can either listen to us as an audio only option, or you can watch us on video and see all of the fabulous color changes our hair went through through the course of 2.5 years. Because looking back at that segment, oh my goodness, it was wild.
That was a lot of changes.
It's crazy. You can find us at Queer Witch Project. Like I said, it's going to be there until YouTube takes it down. So you can always come back and find us again. And then if you ever want a tarot or numerology reading from Damona, or a tarot or charm reading from me, you can contact us directly through our email. Damona's is damonacat11.2@gmail.com. That's DAMONAKAT11.2@gmail.com. Or mine is moonkittytarot@gmail.com, which is MOONKITTEETAROT@gmail.com. Again, we love and thank all of you again for journeying with us for 2.5 years. All of the things, all of the ups, downs, hair changes, audio issues, all the support and love that you guys have given us, especially those. I know we have people out here who don't identify as queer or witchy, and they are still listening to our podcast. And for that, I thank you all so much immensely. And we look very much forward to what the future is going to bring.
Yay.
Yes. So, in a final words, remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously.
Always and forever.
Bye.
Bye.
We love you.